Good evening, everybody. Welcome on behalf of the Indian section to our Sunday evening program. Let's all join together in the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with thee know they are therefore one with every other. So today evening we have a talk on the small book written by Blavatsky called Practical Occultism by Sister Suvralina. To briefly introduce Suvralina, she's well known to all of us. She's been a life member since 2003. In 2016, she took up the being the secretary of the TOS in Delhi. 2017, she started the Prayers Lodge, which primarily has youngsters. She inspires a lot of the youth and youngsters in various camps and motivation programs. She's also now the editor of the Indian section quarterly magazine called The Insight. So, with these short introduction, I welcome Sister Suvralina to give her talk.
Thank you, Vimalji. This would not be a talk, probably. This will be more of reading together this small book, which is named Practical Occultism. And as you could see, this is very small. However, I would be doing it in 3 sessions, mostly 3 sessions, because there are
Okay.
typically 3 parts to it. One is about understanding occultism a bit better, definition wise. Then there is also understanding the occult arts. And also, there is one more session at the end how in our daily life we could use some of these teachings. So that's why I chose to do it in 3 sessions. 3 Sundays mostly, I'll be taking it up starting today. Now, before I talk about the book, the details, what is written inside it, I had taken some notes about the book, and we already know the author, Madam Blavatsky. So I don't need to be talking about her. But yes, this book she has written. This is actually a composition of 3 essays, and which the first two were articles in the Lucifer, a journal edited by Madame Blavatsky herself in 1888, and it describes the essential difference between theoretical occultism, which you know as theosophy, and occult science. However, the last essay, which would be the third session of my this book discussion, that talks about practical ideas, quotations, insights to meditate on daily basis. So this is the book all about. Now, in this book, the very first page, the last paragraph, it defines uh, theosophist, which I would like to start with before I get into the rules and other stuff she's talking about here. She says, I'm just reading from the book. It is easy to become a theosophist. Any person of average intellectual capacities and a leaning toward the metaphysical or philosophy, as we call it, of pure, unselfish life, who finds more joy in helping his neighbor than in receiving help himself. What a beautiful definition. One who's ever ready to sacrifice his own pleasures for the sake of other people, and who loves truth, goodness, and wisdom for their own sake, not for the benefit they may confer, is a theosophist. So when we become a member of Theosophical Society, the first thing that should come to our mind is, why am I becoming a member? Is it to gain some benefit? No. How much can I contribute as a member? How much can I give as a member? How much can I sacrifice as a member is more important than what is the benefit of becoming a member. So no Theosophical Society member joins this Theosophical Society for getting a benefit, rather in what way the person can contribute. Now, in this Practical Occultism book, she has started with relationship between a teacher and a disciple, and she generally talks about it a bit before she comes to the rule. So I had noted this, so I'll kind of read that and would try to explain whatever I understand from this. Madam Blavatsky writes, the teachers are subject to the same inviolable law. from the moment they begin really to teach, from the instant they confer any power, whether psychic, mental, or physical, on their pupils, they take upon themselves all the sins of that pupil in connection with occult science. Now, what does this mean? In the realm of occult or esoteric teachings, whoever is a teacher, who we call generally a master, a guru, in whatever name, but generally we refer it this teacher as a master, the word. So a master is not just someone who passes on the knowledge. Masters awaken inner faculties, our mental inner faculties, our psychic faculties, even our spiritual inner faculties. And it is not just academic. It's not just like a classroom session, the teacher comes in and teaches something. No, it's transformational. That's why the word inviolable law refers to a spiritual accountability. The guru, the master here who's teaching esoteric teachings, he is taking that spiritual accountability of the student. From the moment a teacher empowers a student in these hidden sciences, the teacher becomes spiritually responsible. Responsible for what? For his student's actions until the student attains a level of realization, or we call it initiation. Now, if the student misuses, let's say, the power of knowledge, intentionally, sometimes unknowingly, the disciple misuses the power of knowledge, the karmic consequences fall upon the teacher, the master. The teacher willingly accepts this burden because their role is not just to instruct, but to guide the soul safely. That is why this makes the teaching a sacred vow. It's not just a profession like any other academic teaching, because it's the spiritual responsibility of the master to check how the student is performing, what is the action the student is using, using the power of the knowledge. I'll tell you a story here. I had kind of explored it from some stories I had kept in mind. I thought I should share it here. In an ancient monastery in the Himalayan snows, there lived a master known as Agni. Agni, the flame. He was revered not only for his powers, but for his silence. He had only one pupil, a boy named Darren. Darren was curious, bright. He was hungry for knowledge, to know the mysteries of lives. Over years, Agni, the master, taught him in silence through symbols, meditations, and dreams also. One day, Agni placed a small flame in Darin's palm. It didn't burn, it pulsed with light. It's a living symbol of inner awakening. Agni spoke to him, saying, "This is not a gift, it's a responsibility I'm giving you." Darin felt very powerful, radiant, but gradually he began using this light for personal gain, to influence others, to impress. One day, the flame flickered violently and hurt someone. Darwin was shaken. From that day, the master Agni grew weaker. Darwin asked someday, "Why are you suffering? Why do you suffer, master?" The master smiled. He said, "Because until your light becomes steady, until you understand and hold it with compassion, your karma is my karma." Years passed. Darin learned, failed, tried. Every time we learn something, we try, we fail, then we, redo, then we try. One time, he held a blind woman cross a river without using his power. Because he had that power, he used to use that power to influence and impress. But that very day, he didn't use that power. He genuinely held the blind woman. Without that power, the flame in his palm glowed golden. Now Agni felt better. The master who was growing weaker, he recovered. He was feeling brighter. He looked brighter. He said to his disciple, "You are your own master now." And that day, the flame returned, this time to Darin's heart. So this is about spiritual accountability of a master for his student till the time the student learns it perfectly, not misuses the knowledge. Then Madam Blavatsky writes, so it is clear why the teachers are so reticent and why chelas means the student, pupils, disciples, are required to serve a 7 years probation. There is a 7 years probation mentioned here. So why the teacher is reticent? Sharing occult or spiritual power is not like teaching any other subject, as I mentioned. It's not academic. It's transferring responsibility, karmic connection, a spiritual risk. If a chela is careless, he's unprepared, he can misuse the knowledge and which will harm the student as well as the teacher as well, the master as well. Therefore, this reticent word which is used, that is why teachers test, watch, and wait how the disciple is doing. The 7 years mentioned here as a provision is very symbolic, representing a long period of inner or purification disciple, because it actually takes time to be purified and disciplined and becoming observant. For that period only, this 7 years period probation is for that purification, discipline, observation, so that the student proves his intention, his emotional maturity, his moral integrity, and probably the capacity for inner work. Is the student ready? That readiness is tested actually. Now, he also talks, Madam Blavatsky also talks about in this book, occultism is not magic. So, what she writes here, I had just typed out here. Occultism is not magic. It is comparatively easy to learn the trick of spells and the methods of using the circular, but still material forces of physical nature. And she's also writing the black magic, sorcery. If the person doesn't do it perfectly, for it is the motive. So magic, on what motive are you doing it? The motive alone, which makes an exercise of power become black or white. That is why that is this black magic or the beneficial magic, white magic, whatever we call it. Now, occultism is the sacred science of spiritual development, which includes, as I said, purification, discipline, and alignment with the higher self or divine laws, learning the spells, manipulating, awakening psychic powers. These things are real and can be learned relatively easily, but this is a dangerous part if it is done without purification of inner being. That is why black magic is not a ritual. It's actually a motive. Some people do that. If power is used for personal gain, ego, control, revenge, even just to fascination, just to show that, okay, I have this power, it is considered black magic. The true spiritual power cannot coexist with selfishness. Wherever there is selfishness, the magic is powerless. That is why purity of motive is the absolute requirement if we want the spiritual energies to be working. She also writes, no one can swim unless he enters deep water. No bird can fly unless its wings are grown and it has space before it and courage to trust itself to the air. She also writes, it is like a two-edged sword. We cannot truly learn to or grow by staying in the shallow or the safe. We must take the risk. Immerse ourselves. That is why the deep water, unless we enter the deep water, we cannot swim. That immersing, that risk-taking will help us get the things known. True learning only happens through full experience. Just as a bird needs, she writes, no bird can fly unless its wings are grown. Grown wings are the readiness symbolic. Leaping into the air is the courage to fly. A seeker, a student needs both that inner preparation and as well as that courage of faith. Then only this two-edged sword, which is symbolic of power, then only we can use it properly. If we are not skilled, we will hurt ourselves. I'll again, go to a story here. There was in a warrior monastery in the hills, there was a young disciple named Tarin. He was very ambitious. He begged the master to teach him the sword, the famed two-edged blade. The master gave him a wooden stick instead. For years, Tarin trained with the blunt weapon. He practiced stances, balance, breathing. He learned to fight, but more importantly, he learned when not to fight. One day, when the master placed the actual shining two-edged sword in his hand and said, "You are ready," Tarin held it and suddenly it felt heavy. Not in weight, but in meaning. He was really feeling heavy about it. So he said, "Why now?" The master said, because now you know it's not about cutting, it's about holding. Tarin bowed, no longer eager to wield power, but ready to carry its responsibility. People say when you become a member of the Theosophical Society or maybe the esoteric group, it is like a two-edged sword because you promise to do certain things. Like there are good number of things we are taught or we promise to ourselves, like unnecessary gossiping or being jealous, being selfish. These are the things we keep on practicing to avoid in our daily life, but still sometimes we err, and sometimes we do not do it perfectly. So basically, any responsibility in the spiritual journey is given to us is like a two-way sword. If we don't know how to use it, we are harming ourselves and others also. Now, after this, Madam Blavatsky has taken 12 rules out of some 73 rules. She has taken 12 extracts. I'll go one by one about each rule. And that is the first session all about. I'm only talking about the 12 rules today. In the next session, I'll be talking about the difference of the occult arts. And the third session, I'll be talking about the daily life practice. So coming to the first rule. So I'll read out each rule and I'll explain a bit. She says, the place selected for receiving instruction must be a spot calculated not to distract the mind and filled with influence evolving. This reminds me when we were students, general students of academy, we were guided by our seniors, by elder brothers, sisters, our parents, our teachers, saying that sit in one place, create an environment to study, be there, sit in that particular corner, that particular study table, because you are actually creating an environment for deep focus. So if we kind of imagine that and start visualizing that particular scene when we're children, I think this rule somewhere connects to that, saying there has to be a proper place where you should sit, and that spot should not distract your mind. And here she also talks about 5 sacred colors gathered in a circle must be there among other things. She talks about a lot of things here. I'll explain. The environment should support deep focus and inner stillness. This means no noise, no visual clutter, no interruptions. A space that invites inwardness, reflection, and peace. Some people might keep natural items like crystals, some sacred symbols, specific plants also, or some spiritually charged artifacts which actually give good vibes. Other than that, anything we keep, this is going to distract our mind. The 5 sacred colors gathered in a circle where she's writing it, this is a very symbolic and esoteric in its meaning. In many traditions, like in Buddhism, in Hindu Tantra, there are some 5 sacred colors defined, like white, red, blue, yellow, and green, which represent the element, directions, or divine aspects. So she is suggesting that wherever you sit, create an environment if you want to keep minimal objects, but those objects should be magnetic influence evolving than distracting and free from malignant influences hanging about in the air. That means to cleansing the space from negative or lingering energies which may come from past events, some people, or even unspoken emotions. So that is why she suggests methods like incense, mantras, some soft bales to use to purify the space before instruction. She comes to the second rule. Before the disciple shall be permitted to study face to face, he has to acquire preliminary understanding in a select company of other disciples, the number of whom must be odd. Now, let me just talk about why this group study. So, whenever she's referring to the direct instructions from a true master, the moment when the seeker is ready to receive higher truths or initiations, before this happens, one must pass through stages of inner and outer preparation. So, the disciple has to acquire preliminary understanding. How is it? Spiritual truths must be approached gradually. The early stages involve study, practice, and reflection, which we generally say study, meditate, and serve, study, practice, and reflect. Basically, you are studying something, you are doing some practices on that, and you are also contemplating on that. Whenever we are in a group, we are doing it. Disciples' ego, emotions, and mind are refined. you would understand, at least in Odisha, I have observed, and other states also you'll be seeing, there are group prayers happening. There are, Bhagavad Katha happening in groups, satsang happening in groups. So people are advised to be there in groups also, wherein whenever you sit with other people, no, if you select a company of other disciples, that means who are living in the world but are committed to inner growth, studying in a group will develop this compassion, listening, being self aware, being in a group, all essential before deeper teachings can be safely given. And whenever she says the number of whom must be odd, this is very symbolic. An odd number always creates a dynamic center rather than symmetry. So even if you, geometrically do the drawing of odd and even numbers, you would see odd always gives a dynamic center from everywhere. You could it creates like a circular path kind also sometimes in oval as well. Whereas the odd numbers, they represent growth, movement, and presence of spirit. Even numbers tend to represent the material or fixed. So this is how it is presented. So before the teacher shall impart the disciple the good words of Lamrin, or shall permit him to make ready, she is talking about the teacher's responsibility here. She's talking about graduated steps of enlightenment here, from basic morality to deep meditation and insight. Deep meditative realization requires total inward focus. Now your place is ready. There are certain people sitting with you, and now she's talking about your focus on what you're going to learn, what you're going to understand. And she's saying, take care that his mind is thoroughly purified and at peace with all, especially with his other selves. The disciple must be free from conflict, bitterness, and inner fragmentation. So whenever there is a conflict, even in the same group of people we are studying together, or there is a little bit of bitterness among ourselves, and there is inner fragmentation, sometimes the focus is lost. It happens in our general gatherings also. When like-minded people meet, they create wonders. But whenever there is some bitterness or conflict happening, you would see there is some fragmentation, some friction, which generally doesn't help to keep the focus. And for purification and peace, that is why to work on internal things like being conflict free, being bitterness free, being fragmentation free is required. That is why if the disciple's mind is not integrated, teachings are heard but not absorbed. That is, it's a very good example of, like, many times we take this example. If our water tanks are not clean, or maybe the pipes are not clean, water might be good, water might be healthy and pure, but since the tank is not clean or the pipe is not clean, we will get dirty water. So water might be good, the property of water is good, the water by virtue is good, or water by physically also, the physical water is also good. Just because the container is not washed properly or the pipes are not cleaned properly, we get dirty water. So somewhere the simile is like that. If my mind is not integrated, is not still, I'm still in conflict, I'm having bitterness, jealousy, whatever teachings I'll be hearing, I will be hearing, but I will not absorb that. So maybe my physical, mental, those bodies are not ready to absorb that higher teachings. So to absorb that also, many a times, if there are people who would sit in 1 or 2 hours for a good discussion, but after that they're tired. Many a times it happens. Even in school, colleges, you would see some students, they cannot concentrate for more than 1 or 2 hours. Forget about 5, 6 hours of pressure. Because body is not ready, mind is not ready to observe. Whereas there are still younger children these days. You would see that they're very sharp. They would absorb it quickly if the body mind is pure. The moment we grow elder, sometimes we don't purify our bodies and minds. That is why at times it is a struggle. We hear things, we are not able to listen it properly. We are hearing things, but we're not able to absorb it because somewhere the dirt is there in physical and mental bodies. The fourth rule she's talking about here is the upasaka, while studying, must take care to be united as the fingers on one hand. This is very, very interesting she's talking about. Now, 5 fingers, they're separate, but as my palm or my hand, job is the same. Everybody is doing the one, is moving towards that one intention, one will. So the whole set of disciples are like 5 fingers. So they are 5 separate fingers, but they are joined. The work they would do together is towards one intention, one goal, one pointed. And also the other aspect she's talking about here, whatever hurts one should hurt the others. If there is this sensitivity developed, if I understand that whenever I am as a person uh, doing something and I'm not feeling good, or somebody does something for me and I'm not feeling good, that means when I will be behaving in that fashion, the other person will also be hurt, will also not feel good. So that sensitivity she's talking about here. I'm telling you, this is not just practical occultism. This is practical life she's talking about here. It is not about people on spiritual paths should know. Everybody who's a human being, born as a human being, should know all these rules. If something is hurting me, this will equally hurt others. That shared sensitivity, that principle, we should understand. This will build empathy, oneness, and trust. And every joy must be shared. Many a times people restrict. She's clearly writing it. If you're not able to share your joy, that means somewhere you're disconnected, somewhere you're fearful. Why shouldn't you share your joy? Only when you understand, okay, there is jealousy or there is some detachment, there is ego. Only with this kind of a thing, somewhere inside your mind and heart, you're not able to share your joy. Unfortunately, people these days are afraid of sharing joys because they're afraid of somebody else's jealousy. They're afraid of somebody else's ego, somebody else's detachment. There, she wants to tell us here that we all are the 5 fingers of one hand. We all are human beings of the same universe. So please share. Share joy, share everything. Today, there was a call from a old friend of mine from Calcutta. He suggested, Suvralina, why don't you share grief? I said, what is that? What do I do for that? He said, I just came across of a family who lost their 16 years old son and they are devastated. How do we kind of share that grief? I said, generally we do prayer. I said, other than prayer, what do you do? I said, okay, recently I'm kind of taking care of 1 or 2 young children whose parents are not there. So I'm kind of helping them with their tuition fees and, funding them for their studies. So maybe every family, if takes care of one child to study, many of abandoned children would kind of get help. So maybe that kind of a sharing grief I could probably think of. So we were talking, today only we're talking about. So sharing is there, very much there in all human beings. Sharing joy. Every time we do a function, every time we are in a happy mode or we are doing something grand, we are distributing sweets, distributing gifts because we are happy. There is somebody who's probably ready to share his grief. Are we ready to go and listen to them? The recent most thing that happened in Jammu and Kashmir, what did we do for that? Did we really go and share their grief? Did we really talk about that? Are we ready to be sensitive enough to understand what is going on? So that basic sensitivity she's talking about here. We all are human beings together in this universe. She also talks about in the 5th rule, the co-disciples must be tuned by the guru as the strings of a lute, a veena, each different from the others. See, a veena or a lute is a sacred instrument in Indian music. We all know it. It's symbolic of divine expression. Ma Saraswati holds it. The disciples are like strings. Each of us, each of we disciples have our own tone, own nature, own vibration. The master who's guiding us, or if tomorrow you, me, or anyone is becoming a master to some disciples, as a teacher, this is our prime responsibility to tune their strings. Anyone who's playing a guitar or a veena or anything like that, a string-based instrument would understand. For the music to be sharper and finer, we tune the strings. So each of us are like strings of one instrument. The master tunes us. He aligns our minds, our emotions, our energies, and that too without suppressing our uniqueness. I might be a different person. Vimal is a different person. There are other people who are sitting in the audience are very different people. But as a group, we all are unique. The master only understands us. So somebody who's very masterly, a master is who? Our higher beings are our own masters. We are our masters of our future. We have been today, we are sitting somewhere, standing somewhere that because of our past karmas and past things. Our past is our master, and my today is my master of my future. This is a very basic philosophy we as Theosophic students understand. So we are masters of our future. So why not, whoever we meet in life, it's not about just disciple master relationship. Any human being, any living thing we come across, why don't we tune them without suppressing their uniqueness so that my life's instrument is ready? Because diversity is not a flaw, it's necessary. Whenever you play a music, people who play keyboards or any other music would understand there is always one open space, or there is one chord which might singly played sound distorted, but that is required to break a monotony or rhythmic or anything as musical to be composed, because that flaw is also necessary, because after one part you need a break, or need a higher tone or a lighter tone, just to break the monotony and create another set of connection to that music. I might not be using the right words to express it, because I'm just feeling that anyone who's probably a singer or a musician could probably properly tell that particular word. What I'm trying to say here is, whenever a music is composed, that some flaws are also required, because to maintain that rhythmic thing in that music. So diversity is not a flaw; it's necessary. Everybody, when joins together, all chords when joins together, and without suppressing their unique sound, creates magic, create music, creates symphony, right? So that is why we need to understand the uniqueness of each of our friends and co disciples, I would say. Number 6, she's talking about those who desire to acquire the knowledge leading to the siddhis or these occult powers have to renounce all the vanities of life and of the world. Siddhis are not magic tricks, they are natural unfoldments of consciousness. When somebody is aligning with higher laws, this automatically unfolds. And we all are given that power. We all are born with that power. We have got a human birth. That itself proves that we are born with those powers naturally within us. Unfoldment will happen only when we align with the higher laws. When we catch that higher vibration, that higher frequency, everybody is going to unfold. Everybody is going to evolve. Some may be slow, some may be fast, but every human being on earth is going to unfold. And this unfoldment includes power like clairvoyance, telepathy. Many of us actually kind of experience. Clairvoyance, some of us experience. Levitation, whenever we are doing a meditation, we feel like, okay, we are floating. Some of us might be doing and a kind of experiencing it. Healing also. So these are the natural powers given to all of us. I'll tell you what, whenever we do yoga or yogic exercises, or even if a dance form, everything is in this body. People go to many yoga classes or gyms or some other places where to do some exercise of the body. If we carefully start doing, obviously we do need instructors, that's why we go to external yoga classes or gym classes. But if somebody is learning the art of using the body perfectly, the postures perfectly, the very power is inside the body. I know a couple of people who are doing your this what healing, pranic healing, or maybe spiritual healing kind of stuff. When you meet them, you talk about healing and all, you gradually get to know that the very healing power is only in this body. It is nowhere coming from outside. Our body has that power. But when our desire is pure and our path is not corrupted and we are aligned to higher laws, everybody, each of us will unfold its natural powers. And to renounce all these vanities of life and of the world, she writes, letting go of egoic ambition. What is egoic ambition? I want powers to feel important. Releasing worldly pride, my social status, my material attachment, kind of always seeking attention. We have to all release all this pride, abandoning even subtle spiritual pride. Sometimes some people would say, oh, I know all this, I'm holier than others. No, I'm a common man. I might have read somewhere, I might have got some exposure, that's why I get to learn this. But the moment I kind of say, hey, I know this is my, that subtle spiritual pride also we have to renounce. If we don't renounce, all our magic tricks are not going to work. That is called aligning with higher laws. The seventh rule she's talking about is none can feel the difference between himself and his fellow students, such as I am the wisest, I am more holy and pleasing to the teacher or in my community than my brother. His thoughts must be predominantly fixed upon his heart, chasing therefrom every hostile thought to any living being. So she's talking about as a rule because I'll explain whatever I understand out of this. The moment a seeker compares herself or himself to others, thinking, I am holier, I am wiser, I am more favored, he will step out of the true path of Upasaka, the disciple. That thought is not wisdom. It is ego dressed in spiritual robes. We might call ourselves disciple, but in truth, we are no longer a disciple the moment we have not uh, got rid of the ego. The spiritual superiority separates, while true spiritual growth leads to oneness and humility. The more we grow, Namranti Gunina Jana. There was some Sanskrit thing I just recall. And I'm just forgetting the Sanskrit thing now. The tree which is full of fruits always bows down. And a person who is spiritually awakened, you would find them they are probably the simplest people on the earth. They're so full of humility. So this teaching turns our focus from mind-centered comparison to heart-centered connection. If my heart is a temple of kindness, free from jealousy, resentment, judgment, hostility, because any such thought becomes a veil, it blocks the light of the soul. And we should not feel separate from any other being, not from our fellow disciples, not from even strangers, not from anyone. The moment we think that we are kind of different. So if we do not do this, we will always look forward to people with whom we can be sitting, with whom we can be friendly, with whom we can just stay. We will always try to figure out that these are the set of people I can be only friendly with. We are not ready to love strangers. We are not ready to understand strangers, that innate power that they are human beings. And we are probably, um, even if the universe has aligned some people to come in our life, and because of our this behavior, that they're strangers, I don't just like to be with this person. We are probably stopping our own growth. We are losing an opportunity to learn from that stranger just because we are kind of blocking ourselves with that veil. This could be a judgment. Some people, we get judgmental looking at a person. Okay, this person might be like this. No, why should we be judgmental? Every person has some unique and beautiful thing in his or her soul. So she's making it a rule. I'm really glad that this is nothing to do with a spiritual path learning. This is for every human being somewhere, I feel. Then she talks about the eighth rule. There are four more rules now, 8, 9, 10, 5 rules now. The disciple has to dread external living influence alone. For this reason, while at one with all, in his inner nature, he must take care to separate his external body from every foreign influence. None must drink out of or eat in his cup but himself. He must avoid bodily contact. Here she's talking about a bit higher thing, that every living being emits magnetic or energetic emanations, which can affect another's thoughts, feelings, and energy. Like we all have been taught, and probably most of us are practicing, whenever we see that somebody is starting talking very negative, we try to kind of either move away from that situation or kind of hold our thoughts. Okay, fine. The person is saying no. That's fine. I'll not react. Uh, I'll not take this up. I'll kind of keep on thinking my positive vibes, positive things and all. So similarly, there are people who are, some people are positively charged, some people are negatively charged. So it all depends on how consciously or unconsciously those things are being transmitted. The first thing we are taught is to keep ourselves clean. Clean means clean, literally clean. No dirt, no speck of dirt on our feet, on our hands, on our face. It is nothing to do with clean means I will kind of put up something and hide that dirt. No. Clean means absolute cleanliness. First, physically. Emotionally, clean means feeling, trying to clean our inner feelings, taking charge of our inner feelings, taking charge of our thoughts, cleaning all the negativities and, bringing back positive thoughts and feelings to life, cleansing. And how do we use our clothes, our vessels, our cups, plates, spoons, everything? Instantly using anybody's used cup, you don't know what is there, what is that magnetic effect the cup has. Instantly using whatever, even there are people at home, they also do it. Even if they clean the plates and cups, before every use they would wipe it or they would clean it again. We never know what is the kind of magnetism the objects of daily life are also bringing in. That is why cleaning and understanding bodily contact, shaking hands, touching, through touching also the energy is being transferred. It is said that we must preserve the purity of the energy field. How do we do that? That's up to us. Either we restrict ourselves to use minimal objects, or we take care of, this COVID stuff that's just coming into my mind. Prior to COVID, every time our parents would tell us, like, once you come from outside, just clean your hand and feet and face and everything. We used to even take bath. I remember in my younger days, we used to take evening bath is a must after coming from school and coming from playing from the playground. Unless we take a bath and kind of cleanse ourselves, we would not just study and we cannot concentrate. I have personally experienced that. That's what I'm saying. So cleansing and maintaining that purity has definitely got something to do with our energy field, and being preparing, being ready and preparing ourselves consciously for focusing and doing a good level of energy transfer or transmission through study, meditation, or whatever you call it. Even before evening prayer, we used to take either a bath or clean ourselves, change your clothes, and sit for the evening prayer. So that those were the practices in our younger days. It's difficult now with this lifestyle of today's what I call it, busy lifestyle, of monotonic lifestyle, I may say. But at least we can try to preserve that purity to whatever extent we can. The number 9 rule, she says, is the mind must remain blunt to all but the universal truths in nature, lest the doctrine of heart should become only the doctrine of I. Now, the mind must sharpen itself to reorganize and absorb whatever truths are given to us. All the eternal and essential principles that are woven into the fabric of nature, the universe. Anything that doesn't align with the universal truth should be dismissed. Now she talks about doctrine of heart and doctrine of I. What is that? The doctrine of the heart represents the true inner understanding, the wisdom of the deepest experiences. If we don't absorb the truth, then it will only be a doctrine of the I. Just we saw it. It will be just a hollow. Just we saw the thing. We did not absorb it within our heart. That is why the doctrine of heart is the true inner understanding. Otherwise, we just see the thing and we forgot, or we just see it casually. The doctrine of I is a materialistic approach because it's only outward actions, rituals, ceremonies we do. If you don't understand the objective of the ritual or the ceremonies we do in our daily life, then it is just a doctrine of I. Just we are showing it, but we are not understanding the inner meaning. The moment we know why, even if I'm doing a daily ritual, why am I doing? The moment I know with understanding I do that, that will be more meaningful. If I kind of remind, there was a session I conducted on the Gayatri. Anyone who has gone through that session might be knowing it. I repeated there, or maybe anyone wants to learn that, I will share the link. I gave a talk on the Gayatri. There specifically, I mean, whatever I learned, I shared. Any mantra we utter, if we don't utter it finely with proper pronunciation, and we do not utter with knowing the meaning, whatever we perform, it's very vague otherwise. It will be very empty otherwise. That is why for even if we just repeat one word, it could be any word, Hari Om, or it could be Om Purva Swaha, it could be Hanuman Chalisa. There are many things people are doing, okay? But understanding that if we do that, that has values than reading thousand scriptures, knowing nothing, understanding nothing, and just kind of mugging up and doing it. Yes, words have values. Words definitely have impressions and vibrations. But everyone who has gone through the inner understanding would agree with me. The more you understand, the more ready you are. You absorb more. So it will not just be simple words. The utterance, correct utterance, and with understanding. So it's like different level. Level one is we chant. Level two is we chant clearly. Level three is we chant clearly with understanding. So that is how the sound is also upgraded. Now coming to the number 10th rule. 10th rule. No animal food of whatever kind, nothing that has life in it, should be taken by the disciple. No wine, no spirits or opium should be used, for these are like evil spirits who fashion up the unwary, that devour the understanding. People who understand it scientifically also, any food that takes time to digest, any food that takes that gives you high energy at that very moment, but then after that you're not feeling very easy, you're not feeling very light. People who are on a spiritual path, or call them a disciple of a certain cult, or kind of doing meditative practices, the body, the more the lighter the body is, the more you gain out of this uh, spiritual exercises, or contemplation, or meditative exercises we do. So that is why it is suggested that you adopt a vegetarian lifestyle. So it's a choice. The idea is that consuming any animal product, the energies of suffering and death, which can weaken our spiritual clarity and connection. And it is believed that compassionate living, which avoids harm to sentient beings, is essential for maintaining a pure heart and mind. And more of we avoid negative influences, negative energy, heavy energy. Just being lighter is more important, right? Now, there was this story which I kind of was trying to understand. How would we make other people understand how the food intake or the drink intake affects? A young disciple approached his teacher asking, Master, why must I abstain from wine and animal food? I enjoy them and find them comforting. The master took a ball of clear water and set it on the ground. This water is like your mind, he said, pure, clear, and undisturbed. Then he dropped a single grain of dirt into the water, which clouded the liquid. Now look, the dirt represents the energies of consumption. It's not always immediately noticeable, but it begins to cloud your mind over time. The disciple looked closely and said, But it is just a small amount. Can that really affect me? The master smiled and said, Imagine drinking this water every day, each time adding a little more dirt. How long before it becomes impossible to see clearly? Just as the dirt clouds this water, so do these substances cloud your mind. Purity of body and mind is needed to truly see the world as it is. So she's suggesting it if you are into practice and occult practice, avoid those food which will cloud your mind. The 11th rule she's talking about is meditation, abstinence, the observation of moral duties, gentle thoughts, good deeds, kind words, goodwill, and all this stuff. Meditation helps us to still the mind. The observation of moral duties refers to living in accordance with one's higher ideals and ethical principles. The mind should be filled with gentleness rather than harshness, criticism, envy. The body should be engaged in good deeds, which will manifest kindness, generosity towards others, kind words, compassionate communication. And we are asked to speak the truth. Goodwill to all refers to universal love, where the disciple sees all beings as part of the same divine whole. When Bimalji was doing the universal invocation, she was talking about O hidden life, O hidden light, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. There is this hidden love, embracing all in oneness. The thread is not seen to us, this invisible thread which is binding everyone. Sometimes we realize it, but the more and more we expand our consciousness, we will grow from me to my family, to my community, neighborhood, my society, my state, my country, my continent, the universe, the galaxy, everything. The more and more we do it, even if we do it for 5 minutes a day, we will realize that we are able to connect to the universal love. True wisdom is not something to be acquired through intellect alone. It is the result of that I was talking about, purifying our mind, body, and heart. Then the last rule she's talking about is, it is only by virtue of a strict observance of the foregoing rules and the growth which makes him become gradually one with the universal all. So all these spiritual powers we are talking about, the enlightened beings who have achieved a high degree of spiritual realization, with this ability to wield the siddhis are not ultimate goal. They are side effects of inner growth. So as theosophists, we don't want spiritual power. We want inner growth. When we inwardly grow, the powers will automatically come to us. It will automatically uplift us. I'll end with a story. A disciple came to the teacher and asked, Master, how can I attain the great powers you speak of? I wish to know the siddhis to control the elements, to see beyond the physical. The master smiled and took a small seed from the ground. This seed, my disciple, holds the potential of a great tree. It must go through all the stages to grow, from sprout to sapling to full bloom, and then only it will yield its fruit. Likewise, the powers you seek are like the fruit of a tree. You must first develop the roots of selflessness, discipline, and purity. Only when you are ready and your mind is calm can the powers manifest as a natural result of your spiritual growth. They are not our goals. The tree will not bear fruit if it has not fully grown. The disciple thought deeply and nodded, understanding that the fruit of siddhis comes after the work of self-mastery and pursuit of unity with the universal. A student must be strong enough to kill out in his heart all feelings of dislike and antipathy to others. So if we really want to follow the master, there's this saying called, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. First, let us be ready. Our masters will come in any form to guide us. We will grow and then we will become our own masters. We are the masters of our future. That we all know. But when we realize it, when we start working on it, we will grow to that level. So this is the first session. So it is not about I'm saying something. I am reading this book and I'm kind of interpreting. We will do it in 3 sessions. So maybe after the third session, we'll take up. There is nothing to question answer because, I would not be answering anything. I was just reading this book. And thank you for this opportunity to read this wonderful book. Thank you. Thank you, Vimalji.
Thank you, sister. Actually, it was really interesting because normally we think these 12 points would be only for the chelas. But the way you have interpreted it, you are saying that, of course, all of these rules are applicable to anybody who's on the spiritual path, not being competitive with fellow aspirants, leading a pure life, having a pure environment. And so many factors are there which all of us could apply in our daily life. Of course, as you said, there are no questions and answers, but any sort of ideas or thoughts anybody has,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can share
anybody
at this
can share.
point.
Yes, yes.
I see Naveen ji, Sushma ji, so many people are there uh, who may have something interesting to say. Arunima ji, anyone wants to say something, or else we can end.
You can do the prayer, and maybe next session we will take up the questions or discussions. We are already, I think I took almost 1 hour.
We
No?
have 5 minutes. No, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This is wait.
Thank you, Suvralina ji. It was very clear exposition, and let us ponder over it. It's not easy to explain this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Actually, the part 3 of this, I found one of the words very striking, which is like you purify your heart, and that is the main work that you do. Where you when she says purify your heart, it really means what one of these points here which you have mentioned today, which is about having this good thoughts about everything, about yourself, about others, everything. So that aspect she talks a lot about in the third part of this book. It's very interesting. I think in the context when she had written it, it was at a time when people thought that if they just entered the society, they would immediately be taken on as disciples or chelas. So these 12 rules and how strict they are make you make a normal person, I mean, a person who's aspiring like this will understand that, oh, it's a very special situation being a chela because you have to be physically away from everybody. Firstly, you have to have such a environment to even for the master to give any instructions. So that way it helped people to understand why they were not being immediately accepted as chelas. So in that time, this information was possibly for that purpose. But we are of course studying it for our own, seeing how we can practically apply some of these teachings. Okay, so I think that's all. I will end. Thank you, Sister Suvralina. Looking forward to next week. Thank you so much. Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. So we are ending the session, right?
Yes, please.